So you're seeing video of a apprehension by federal law enforcement agents in Boyle Heights, right around the main area of downtown LA where all the riots are breaking out. And you're going to see a little bit of the video, but it was put on, oh, the feds did a hit and run and all that. We'll get into it in a second, but we'll back it up and get a little bit more of the flavor of the KTLA5 report. Here we go.
I have some surveillance video to show you. Let's go to that video now, and we'll talk about what happened here. Now, we understand in the video, there was a white Mercedes trying to make a right-hand turn off of Calzona onto Whittier Boulevard when a gray pickup truck goes around the Mercedes while a light-colored blue SUV hits the vehicle from the rear passenger bumper, and that pinned the vehicle between the truck and that SUV. Now, then you see what appears to be federal agents, possibly federal agents in plain clothes, exit the vehicles and start firing what appears to be pepper ball rounds at the vehicle. Now, we understand that the person in that vehicle was taken into custody later.
Yes, he was. It was first reported, and we'll have this in a second, that I saw it on ABC7, as though people say it's impossible. The feds hit and run. Well, it turns out that they were chasing a criminal rioter and arrested him, and it appears he had his wife, girlfriend, baby, something or other, and she's saying, oh, they did this, and it was all that. So you see that on the ABC7, federal agents involved in Boyle Heights hit and run crash, witnesses say, LAPD investigating. Like the feds went and caused this and went and did a hit and run, when it was nothing such the case. Has been made clearer in reports coming on. They were arresting a violent rioter who had been involved in all this stuff, and I believe had a criminal history. The internet blew it up. ABC7 was running with that story instead of the facts or getting what was really on there. So that's what the heck's been going on, as you see. This clip here, Gavin Newsom came on late last night, or about 6:30, just as we were on after the show, with a taped interview. You're seeing some of it, of how Trump, it's mean Trump, and we got a Karen Bass clip, and we'll get into these later. But this is probably how you should see Newsom. So they did a taped interview of his propaganda piece, and this is what it sounded like when they torched it off at 6:30 last night. This is how we should hear Gavin Newsom all the time. We should silence Gavin Newsom. And please, California, don't elect any more stupids. We can't handle much more of this. The aforementioned Karen Bass was on PMSNBC, as Rush used to say. We got some more in this, but I wanted to hit this clip real quickly.
Are you concerned at all that there are people out there who say, well, the city of Los Angeles is harboring dangerous individuals?
No, I think that is fiction. Are there dangerous individuals that are here in Los Angeles?
Yes, you are harboring them, you buffoon Bass. You are a sanctuary city. You protect them. You will not turn over to federal officials criminals in your jails when ICE, Homeland Security, FBI ask to arrest them. No, you protect felonious, potential, suspected criminals you're releasing from your jail. You are flat. You and Gavin Newsom are flat. Harboring, have been, AB 54, the sanctuary state and the little sanctuary city laws you pass, and funding all this stuff, X and Victor, you are definitely harboring criminals. You lying sack of, well, I better stop before I get myself into trouble. There was this scene down there where they were throwing Molotov cocktails in Paramount. There's some of the video coming of there where they were arresting some of the rioters, and then you can barely see it, but you saw them toss a Molotov cocktail and go in. Well, the good news is, and it's great we have Bill Asaley on the job, because he announced this.
Escalation of violence by these rioters poses a serious threat to our agents and the safety of the public. Throwing rocks, explosives, assaulting agents, and committing other acts of violence are extremely dangerous and will not be tolerated. The president had no choice but to call in the National Guard to protect our assets and our personnel. Our agents and our law enforcement were overwhelmed, and we are grateful for the help of the National Guard that we've received. The defendants charged in the complaints are accused of throwing Molotov cocktails at police officers and sheriff deputies who were called in to restore order after 2 demonstrations against federal immigration enforcement turned violent. As alleged in the complaints, these defendants, one in Paramount, the other in downtown Los Angeles, threw Molotov cocktails at police officers. Last Saturday, one defendant, Emiliano Galvez, hid behind a fence and threw the destructive device at a sheriff's deputy, then ran away.
And they're saying that they don't need any help. Looney Tunes, McDonald, the police chief and sheriff down there, Bass going on. We'll have the tape of that. Oh, get them out. Stop the raids. We don't need this. We got it covered. Yeah, harboring criminals, making Southern California, Los Angeles, California unsafe. It's exactly what you're doing, have been doing. And as Asaley said, it's great. Trump is putting it to a stop. Carl DeMaio, and we'll have more on this, along with the great attorney Laura Powell, explaining the Churla deal, where it appears tens, maybe hundreds of millions of dollars of just California funds have been spent on these paid agitators, and this goes back a long way. George Floyd, all sorts of this stuff going on. We'll definitely have more on that story yet. As it says, boy, my computers have been fun today. Of Jenny Poo, Gavin Newsom's little wifey, was caught. There it is. California's First Lady, Jennifer Cybele Newsom, shrugs off riots crisis to shop. And the Daily Mail is the only one that's covering this. If you could get her, well, I guess we're not going to get that, but she's out there shopping in Los Angeles, decked out at some of the biggest restaurants, shopping centers, $500 this, and now they're trying to blame it off on, oh, she had skin cancer and she needed some skincare products. Man, they really think we're that dumb to believe that. They really do. Sad news. The Inspiration wrote most of the songs, arranged them for the Beach Boys, iconic Southern California and the world-renowned band with all the very Southern California music. The founder, basically the guy that founded it and organized it and ran it, Brian Wilson, passed away today at the age of 82. So we give condolences to his family and gazillions of fans. Rest in peace, Brian Wilson. There's a funky side guitar music that comes in every Monday through Friday, live 5, the Evil Epi Network, Rumble X, YouTube, and the Roy Blecker channel. All that good stuff going on. Man, that was a bummer Brian Wilson cashed it in. He's a brilliant musical talent, challenge, had a lot of mental and physical health issues along the way, but he made it a good 82 years, and hey, I think a lot of people would take that. No, a lot of people didn't make it that far, but rest in peace. Brian Wilson, you gave us a lot of joy and entertainment listening to your songs over the years. Well, wearing the Hawaiian shirt, which he used to wear when he was playing the piano at most of the Beach Boys concerts, so man, we still have the music of those guys, and I don't know if the younger set appreciate it, but some of the best music ever made in the history of the world were made by the Beach Boys, penned and arranged by now the late Brian Wilson. All the chaos is breaking out, still is in Southern California. It has spread. New York City had some problems. Austin, San Antonio, Houston, and Dallas, Texas had some pretty good buffs-ups last night over the ICE raids and things like that, but it's still mainly constrained in the Southern California, downtown Los Angeles area. One thing we've got to do, and I'm glad we had a Saley on there, of all the rhetoric that's going on, because all you hear is, like you saw in the intro, where the ICE agents were tracking down a violent rioter. Seems like he has a history. And it's on, the first reports are, the feds did a hit and run. Oh, a possible hit and run. The feds hit this car and fled the scene. Now we're finding out that was nowhere even close to being accurate. They did not flee the scene. Some people may have. There were no injuries on the scene, so it wasn't like anybody was bleeding or dying or anything. Yeah, maybe once they saw apprehended the suspect, got that. Maybe one guy stayed there, the rest of them took off and left. Appears to be what happened, now that we have further clarification. But and you knew something was up when they had the press conference today with Looney Tunes and the sheriff out in L.A. and Jim McDonald, the police chief of L.A., and they didn't want to talk about it when the reporters' questions came up. So you knew something was up, but you saw the funky reporting going on, or trying to make a mountain out of a molehill, or trying to redirect the whole system. And we got more evidence of that. I don't know, we'll get to it today. But there was another one that was on that. You know, there was someone was here illegally, had deportation orders, exhausted their appeal, was still here 2 years later, and they're all like, boo-hoo-hoo, oh, him and his son got deported to Ecuador or wherever it was at. You had been given deportation orders. You went through 2 years of due process, and you had to go to another entity to find that out, because the first television report didn't mention anything about that. And the other reports are like, you know, on paragraph 39 of 25 paragraphs. And that's not too much of an exaggeration or hyperbole. But we got a lot of problems. And just like the silence, and we'll get to some of the Gavin Newsom clips, hopefully, as he did after we went off on the show, he did that taped interview last night And that was great. They can, on a taped interview, I get it, technical stuff. I have it all the time. I get stuff happens. But I mean, they kick it off, and his makeup, whatever, the picture's bad. He looks like half a ghost. No sound, no nothing. But like I said, that's what we want to hear from Gavin Newsom. Silence. Another one is Karen Bass. She was on PMSNBC as a great Rush Limbaugh used to say. Let's pick up the first clip. Possibly. Here we go.
The real thing that's happening here are the egregious ICE raids. And we don't know when or where that's going to happen. And I do think that will be a test as to where the city goes today in the next couple of days.
So, Mayor Bass, let's talk about it now.
It's all Trump's fault. Everything's Trump's fault. The raids are coming in. We were peaceful and that. Yeah. Homeless all over the streets. Poverty everywhere. You've been declining population for 7 or 8 years in Los Angeles City and County because it's so great. Buffoon Bass. Trump's in there trying to clean it up. As Asaley said, you guys weren't getting the job done. You were putting not only your local law enforcement agents in peril, but you were putting the federal agents in there that were just trying to enforce the law, like the dude they had to trap. They had to box him in with their cars. He's running into the cops, trying to get away in his Mercedes. We can imagine what this guy was doing. It was probably a $100,000 unit. That dude was the price of cars, probably more. That wasn't a cheap model. That wasn't the low model Mercedes anywhere. They were him and his wife and kid, if that's what it was, or girlfriend or whatever, were tooling around it. But it's all Trump's fault.
You have National Guard, thousands of National Guard members there. Marines also in the area, seemingly going to be walking the streets of Los Angeles today, safeguarding federal buildings. Unclear what else their mission might be. What is your reaction to that? Yeah.
My reaction is that it is completely unnecessary. What are they going to do? The 100 National Guard soldiers that are downtown Los Angeles are guarding one federal building. So there is no need.
They're not guarding one federal building, you clown. They're in there arresting the Molotov cocktail deal like we had. Or the other dude that were attacking sheriff's deputies down in Paramount and in the other one in downtown or in Boyle Heights, I believe, where all this stuff was going down, or in your city district. Because you and Jim McDonald and Robert Looney Tunes Luna and the whole crew and Gavin Newsom cannot handle your job, which is the number one job, as the people have declared in the California Constitution, as public safety, and you can't do it, so you're going to blame Trump for actually doing it, like Asaley said. Thank our lucky stars. Kamala Harris didn't win the presidency.
Need for this. The city handled things perfectly last night and will continue to do this. I do believe, though, that this is all part of an experiment that's taking place in Los Angeles, and I hope other cities I know they are, because I was online with about 50 other mayors who are concerned about what's happening in our city, because it could easily come to theirs. And the test is, what happens when the federal government intervenes and takes power away from a governor and a mayor?
When public safety is in peril. George Floyd riots. Biden let the towns burn: Seattle, Los Angeles, Minneapolis, New York. Let them burn. That was you, Karen Bass. Let the looters Go let people occupy other people's private property they earned. That's where this stuff is going. And your little experimenter that, yeah, I would be nervous with your 50 little mayors that have been running these little communistic, socialistic enclaves. That day is about to come to a screeching frickin' halt. And it can be none too soon. I think as far as the American people are concerned, because most of us have had a freak enough. Here we go.
So, yeah, I was going to ask you that. What experiment is this, do you think? What is President Trump trying to test here? What do you believe? Do you agree as to what his goals are? Do you agree with the governor in which this is only going to make things worse?
Well, and I absolutely agree with the governor that it's not only going to make things worse, it has made things worse. And in turn,
you made things worse, you imbecile. Look at the hellhole California and the subsect of that 25, well, about 10% of the populations is LA City, 25% LA County. Look at the hellhole it's become. Homeless capital of the world, poverty, despair, people can't keep up. They're losing ground every day because of inflation and prices rising. And then they practically have to shoot their way out of their home to get to work or get their kids to school.
In terms of do I agree with the president's goals? Who knows what the president's goals are? I mean, originally it was we're going to go after violent felons, gang members, drug dealers, and
Buffoon Bass needs a hearing aid. Trump said, from the time he ran in 15 through his presidency number 1, when he was on the campaign trail for presidency number 2, when he got elected, he said the first priority, or one of the biggest, if it ain't one, it's in the top 3, is we're going to clean out all illegal aliens. We are going to start with the most dangerous and violent criminals. That was very clear. 10,000, it seems like, rallies and speeches and interviews with the nasty woman and everything else, debates. This stuff is absolutely beyond the peril that we come up with. But here we go. We have to listen to this lying, conniving, and she's, you know, zero brain power, almost. Here we go. Last one on the Buffoon Bass.
Violent criminal records. And secondly, are you concerned at all that there are people out there who say, well, the city of Los Angeles is harboring dangerous individuals?
You know, no, I think that is fiction. Are there?
That is not fiction. Like we said, the very essence of the sanctuary city law, or SB 54, the sanctuary state law of the state of California. And you've said it many times, we will protect everyone here regardless of their immigration status. We don't care if they're a criminal. If they're getting released from our jails, and the federal government has charges they want to bring, put them on detainer, you say no. You've been coddling them, protecting them. through your, ever since you've been in the assembly, ever since you've been organizing with the communists, and that's Mike Benz has had that on for years about your stuff. Now it's starting to more break out how you guys have been doing it. And it's beyond the criminal pale. We have to sit here and listen. I don't know what's wrong with you. Not that I'm no big Rick Caruso fan. But he was 9 gazillion% better than Buffoon Bass. At least Caruso's got some brains in his head. He may have some squirrely political positions. But he at least has a brain on his head instead of this completely clueless woman. That's why we call her Buffoon Bass.
California.
Yes, oh, he got his sound back. Lucky us. As they say. Gavin Newsom came on at 6:30 last night. Another, like Bass's one this morning. Oh, the only thing they can do now is blame it on Trump. They know they got a bad situation. Let's see what the Gav, now that he's got his tan painted back on and the sound back. Here we go.
We'll keep fighting. We'll keep fighting on behalf of our people, all of our people, including in the courts. Just yesterday, we filed a legal challenge to Donald Trump's reckless deployment of American troops to a major American city.
This disingenuous piece of probably at least Karen Bass got an excuse. She's stupid. Gavin's not stupid. He's very intelligent, actually. But he didn't mention that a federal judge did not grant his initial request to put a stop to this. Now, I think they're going to have a hearing on it tomorrow. But he asked for an emergency temporary restraining order, injunction, whatever the legalese is. And the judge denied that yesterday afternoon before he came on with this stuff. So if him and Bass, Buffoon Bass, and Gulag Gavin Newsom were right, if they were 100% collectively right, and just like with that issue, George Bush in 1992 in Los Angeles with the Rodney King deal, not only nationalized the California National Guard, put Marine and Army troops in here, total of about 10,000. I think we're up to 5 or close to 5 right now, about 4,000 California National Guard. I think there's 700 or 800 Marines from Camp Pendleton and 29 Palms. Ike used the military. Reagan used the California Guard in the 65 riots. That's what they're there for, Gav. To provide backup so the regular police officers ain't getting rocks thrown at them or have some personnel to clean this stuff out so they're not in danger. So the lootings can stop immediately before or as soon as they try to start it.
Today, We sought an emergency court order to stop the use of the American military to engage in law enforcement activities across Los Angeles. If some of us could be snatched off the streets without a warrant, based only on suspicion or skin color, then none of us are safe. Authoritarian regimes begin by targeting people who are least able to defend themselves.
As far as I know, and I'm no lawyer to give legal advice, the cops can detain you for 72 hours. They can snatch you off the street and detain you for up to 72 hours before you even see a judge. That is called due process. They have the right to, any sworn peace officer, if you're a sworn peace officer in the state of California, doesn't matter, highway patrol, deputy sheriff, police officer, if you're a sworn officer, you have the right to arrest anybody in the borders of the state of California 24/7, 365. You don't have to be carrying your badge. You don't have to carry a gun. So he's not going to quit the fear-mongering. What I'm saying is people quit voting for, and quit believing the propaganda, because this is made to instill fear into you so you will comply with his illegal orders.
But they do not stop there. Trump and his loyalists, they thrive on division because it allows them to take more power and exert even more control.
Trump is doing, again, this is the disinformation. This is the guy that seizes power. This is the guy that's doing fear-mongering along with Karen Bass and Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and Nancy Pelosi. Mad Maxine down there. I was on the streets. I didn't see nothing. Exactly. He practices Hegelism and the whole crew over there every day. Create a crisis where one doesn't exist and then walk in with the solution. And what do they use? Fear. Prime motivator. You can go to Stockholm Syndrome in any way. You put enough fear in people, you can make them comply with almost anything.
And by the way, Trump, he's not opposed to lawlessness and violence as long as it serves him. What more evidence do we need than January 6th?
Oh, you knew that had to come. January 6th was one building. One building that Trump asked or provided, willing to provide Nancy Pelosi with the National Guard, with troops on January 6th, and she said no. So it didn't happen in the first place. These are the operators that are doing that. And we'll get into the Sherla funding and all that stuff that's breaking out probably tomorrow. You got a little bit of taste of it. Carl DeMaio's been on it. Laura Powell, the attorney from up in San Fran, has been busting on it. I think when Susan Shelley comes on, she might have some more info on a lot of the stuff that's breaking out. This has all been confirming what we've been saying on IE Newswire, and I've been saying before that. But it'll be about a month, well, a little less than a month. Believe it or not, 9 years I'll be on the airwaves. And I've said this. They have been taking, at the point of a gun, our money and funding this stuff, whether they're laundering it through USAID, the Ukraine war, the Afghanistan conflicts, these little churla organizations, and there's hundreds of them. You go down to the county, like Colleen brought out about Rainbow Pride and all that. That was just one $800,000 contract we did get stopped. The county of Riverside's probably tens of hundreds of millions of dollars into this stuff. Now we're exposing they're the ones that are out there, the paid agitators. Look, and I don't know what truth serum LA Police Chief Jim McDonald, but what was it there yesterday? He said at the press conference, yeah, we see these same individuals coming around, they're paid agitators. They're getting paid probably 111% from our money. It's the whole thing. Exactly what he was talking about. Oh, they're trying to blame Trump. It's this guy, Karen Bass, Joe Biden. They're the ones that have been funding this. Look, Kamala Harris was bailing out the rioters on the George Floyd deal. But again, January 6th was one building in one city that Trump offered to have National Guard troops out there to prevent something like that happen that Nancy Pelosi put the kibosh on. Your little relative, a-hole.
Ask everyone. Take time. Reflect on this perilous moment. A president who wants to be bound by no law or constitution, perpetuating a unified assault on American traditions. This is
so keeping the peace, making communities, cities, counties, states, and the nation safe. Is against the Constitution, is perpetuating violence and fear. This guy is so full of himself. It's not even funny.
Who in just over 140 days has fired government watchdogs that could hold him accountable for corruption and fraud. He's declared a war.
We had Doge, which barely probably tipped the iceberg of what, $200 billion in waste, fraud, and abuse. Where was the Biden administration that you were touting? Or the Obama administration? Which was in most of your tenure as lieutenant governor. Where were they? What sort of waste, fraud, and abuse what cuts did they make? Where did they weed any of this out? It's you with the war on American culture. It's what you're trying to destroy. Bringing in all these illegal aliens is precisely destroying American culture. You're not following federal law that has a process to immigrate to this country. And when you get here, like Hillary Clinton said, you pledge allegiance to the flag and the country of the United States of America. You learn English. You come to our culture and way of doing things, and the free market and freedom, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, the right to own property, and not have jackasses like this take it away from you through taxation and inflating prices.
War on culture, on history, on science, on knowledge itself. Databases, quite literally, are vanishing. He's delegitimizing news organizations, and he's assaulting the First Amendment. And the threat of defunding them at threat.
Delegitimizing illegitimate news organizations, calling them out. Why don't you talk about Terry Moran, the latest one of the mouse, Disney? Why'd they fire him? Gulag. PBS and all that stuff needed to go a long time ago. Maybe there was a need to it when we just had 2, 4, 5, 7, 9, and 11 and a couple UHF channels. There's so much media out there, it isn't even funny. The day for public broadcasting is long in the rearview mirror, and you frickin' know it. But you're using it as your own propaganda tool to push your fear, to push killing the American culture every day.
He's dictating what universities themselves can teach. He's targeting law firms and the judicial branch that are the foundations of an orderly and civil society.
Harvard, which has got $50 billion, and we need to fund that. How ridiculous? How freaking ridiculous is that?
He's calling for a sitting governor to be arrested for no other reason than to, in his own words, for getting elected.
No, we're just tired of your BS. For 20 years, Prop 63, when you first got elected mayor, Tax the Rich White Boys Act. We're going to end homelessness, no mentally ill walking the streets, nothing. In 5 years, going to be gone. $27 billion just on that. And what, 21 years later, the problem is so much worse. I don't know why it's got that. Maybe that'll get rid of that flashing on there. But now we get that. Jeez. Now you get the little chingaderas. Maybe that'll fix the camera thing. Again, these electronics. So I'm not going to bust them that hard for the electronics. But no, this Klondike has done that. He's threatening to arrest you because, like he said, you're totally incompetent at the job. You're really dangerous.
And we all know this Saturday, he's ordering our American heroes, the United States military, and forcing them to put on a vulgar display to celebrate his birthday, just as other failed dictators have done.
I mean, you can't make this stuff up. You really can't.
In the past. California will keep fighting.
Oh,
We'll keep fighting.
yes, we're going to keep fighting. We're going to keep fighting your idiocracy each and every day. Because we really can't take it anymore.
Failed dictators have done in the past. Look, this isn't just about protests here in Los Angeles. When Donald Trump sought blanket authority to commandeer the National Guard, he made that order apply to every state in this nation. This is about all of.
That's because he's commander-in-chief and El Presidente. It's called the Constitution. The executive branch, President of the United States, he has that authority, stupid. You know it. You're not that. But you're going to twist the words all over the place. It's really, really, really getting one of the only good thing about this, Trump's 4-day average on Rasmussen Reports poll, and they're the only ones that do a daily tracking poll, popularity of the president. 4-day average is 53% and rising. The solace we can take in this is we're winning. Right is winning. No, we're winning. What's right for everybody's winning.
What's happening right now is very different than anything we've seen before. On Saturday morning, when federal agents jumped out of an unmarked van near a Home Depot parking lot, they began grabbing people, a deliberate targeting of a heavily Latino suburb. A similar scene played out when a clothing company was raided downtown.
All the false narratives, all the fear mongering, every day, everything that he's saying is like complete and total BS. It's almost uncanny. And it would be tragic if not true. But like we said, we can't take this much anymore. More from the ding dong.
In other actions, a U.S. citizen, 9 months pregnant, was arrested. A 4-year-old girl taken. Families separated. Friends, quite literally, disappearing. What's happening right now is very different than anything.
Yeah, I will agree with him on that part. It is very different. We've had a much... We're not under the reign of terror of a gulag Gavin Newsom. Even though he's still sitting in office like the buffoon bass. There's no... They're getting neutralized. Starting next year, or at the end of next year, we will have a new governor one way or the other. I believe Bass's term is up in 27 the next year.
40 seconds, 40 seconds.
You're coming on early, at least on my clock. You usually don't hit till about 45 seconds from here.
Yeah, I played a repeat. Someone wasn't here.
So, okay. That's what it is, because, yeah, you're... But anyway, so... We're going to be joining the Mighty Met 1490 AM, as Jesse said. Hopefully we'll have Susan Shelley in. We'll get into, she had a great column this weekend. We'll maybe get into some more of this financial stuff, as we will the rest of the week, because it's been busting out all over.
5 seconds, here we go.
We've been financing these riots and every chaos.
IE Newswire Daily is on the air.
The following is a paid program. Views and claims expressed are those of the program producer and are not endorsed by this station. Opinions expressed are not necessarily those of radio station
There's some funky slide guitar music that comes in every Monday through Friday live at 5:30 on the Mighty Met 1490 AM, broadcasting all over the Inland Empire and the aforementioned AM band, joining our vast video audience in the Evil FB Network, Rumble, X, all that good stuff, YouTube on the Roy Bleckert channel. Lots of stuff breaking out. As we said, we just ran through some of the stuff on the web. Gavin Newsom came on late, just after, about a half hour after we were off the show with the taped interview, along with the buffoon bass. It's the riots are all Donald Trump's fault. Everything is him. We didn't do that. The fear-mongering, the absolute Hegelism, create a crisis where one doesn't exist. Trump's going to change our culture? No, Trump is installing the American culture that for 249 years. You guys have been trying to destroy it. This is what we have, unfortunately, been the assault from. The media trying to say, oh, the feds are doing a hit and run down there in Boyle Heights, which is right there in Ground Zero. what's going on down in LA. Nothing could be further from the truth. They were arresting a violent, suspected rioter out there, and they had to box and crash him in. As we showed on the tape. I mean, what more assault do we have to go through on this stuff? There it is. They're trying to say the feds, federal law enforcement, were doing a hit and run. When now, that was about 11 o'clock, just came on just before the show. Oh, they were arresting a violent suspected protester, like the dudes that threw the Molotov cocktails and everything else that Assailey talked about. It's almost downright criminal. The lies and deceit. The facts that they, oh, we forgot about those. Or with the Terry Moran. You know, Trump's chief of staff, Stephen Miller. Oh, and Trump, they're evil, nasty. Newsom, oh, they're subverting the Constitution. And the whole rhetoric that we've been going across with all this stuff. That's the criminality that's been going on. And it's been going for far too many years. Hopefully, we're seeing a renaissance, turnaround, like we've never seen before. I don't know. It will definitely, we need to keep this trajectory going that Trump has started when he was sworn in at the beginning of the year. But as we usually do on a Wednesday, we have the famed editorial writer, columnist for the Press Enterprise, Saturday Sun, Redlands Daily Facts. But more important to be Vice President of Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association, Susan Shelley, Wildnight Newswire with Roy.
Thank you, Roy. Great to be with you.
Man, with the riots and everything coming out and the disinformation, the two main provocateurs of this is, I believe, well, Gavin Newsom last night and Karen Bass this morning, blaming Trump for all of this, saying he's destroying our American culture, making us unsafe, when it's exactly what he's doing is restoring it. And we're to the point. I mean, we're to the point of I guess they just don't care. They will just flat out lie for any reason. It's distressing that they're doing it. The good news is we have Trump and Assailey and guys like that are going to restore order to not only to Southern California, but the United States. Susan Shelley.
Well, absolutely. This is a strange situation. We've got elected officials who are sworn to uphold the Constitution of the state and the country, lobbying for a lack of law enforcement, essentially arguing that federal law should not be enforced in California. That's what they're objecting to. And when you see the mayor of Los Angeles saying the whole problem is the president has to stop the raids, well, leave to the side that these are not even really immigration raids, but criminal arrest warrants for other things that are intersecting with immigration. Leaving that aside, what kind of a public official stands up and says, stop enforcing the law? You're bothering us the way you enforce the law. We're in the business here of not enforcing the law, and everything is fine when we don't enforce the law. And it's much wider in California than just immigration. That's why Prop 36 passed by 70% to 30% last November, because the government has been saying, well, we're not going to put people in prison. We're not going to put people in jail. We're not going to arrest anybody. We're going to repeal the law. And that's the direction that everything's been going. Right now they're having a fight over whether they lift a ban on loitering for prostitution a year or two ago. And now there's an effort to put that back so that people can be arrested for driving around trying to prey on young girls who are on the streets. And they're having a fight over that. They're standing up for the right to prey on teenagers in Sacramento. This is craziness. And this business of blaming Trump for the riots is even crazier.
1,000%. I mean, when you get to the point of, here we go, and Hillary Clinton said it when she was running for president. If you're coming to our country, you're going to come to our culture. You're going to learn English. You're going to pledge allegiance to our country and our flag. That's what we require of you, a United States citizen. This whole, especially this last, whatever it's been, 10, 20, 30 million illegals coming in of that, it's designed to do exactly the opposite of what Newsom said. Oh, Trump's trying to get rid of American culture. No, he's preserving it. It's you and your ilk, Newsom and Buffoon Bass and everyone else, Biden. You're the ones that are trying to destroy American culture so you can try and retain not only the power you have, but gain more, Susan Shelley.
That's what's happening. I think a lot of this is politics because they want to win back the Latino vote that they have been losing election after election to Donald Trump. I think a lot of it is about that. And some of it is they're just enthralled to the union leaders, and the union leaders want no enforcement on immigration for their own reasons. And this is it's just horrifying, I think, to regular, ordinary citizens who are voters, who are looking at this and saying, what is happening? Our government is defending all the lawbreakers, and then coming to the businesses and the victims and saying, you need to pay to clean up this graffiti. The World Cup is coming. What is that? Crazy.
It's something else. I think, and maybe I could be messed up, but don't you work with the HJTA? Aren't your offices down there in and around downtown LA? So, I mean, I just wondered if you were in that, or just what's your feeling if you've been there, what's your feeling, what's going on the ground all over down there?
I have not been down there. The HJTA offices are in the Koreatown area, which is near Wilshire and Vermont. So that's a little bit west of downtown, north and west of downtown. So I have not been down there, but it's not good. You know, it's where City Hall is. It's right next to City Hall and Grand Park, and it's close to Dodger Stadium, and it's horrific to see this idea that rioters can have the streets whenever they want them. If people want to demonstrate, the way you do it lawfully, if you have a normal government, is there's a permit, there's an area, there's a park or a street that's roped off or whatever, and you have a permit and you have a secure area where you check people for weapons so that no one gets hurt, and you have a demonstration or a protest. But to say people are upset with law enforcement and therefore they can close the 101 freeway and they can throw things on top of CHP vehicles and they can throw rocks at the heads of law enforcement officers and try to hit the horses of the mounted police, and that's all fine. Well, really, it's not fine. And then the sun goes down and there's looting, and it's like, oh, well, those aren't our people. These are other people who came in to loot. Well, we don't really know that, do we? I don't think they were checking IDs.
1,000%. I mean, and when when Trump and Saley and Tom Homan and all these guys get better control of the situation, we get back to more normal operations, as they say. All of this stuff's just been breaking out. Well, within a month, I'll be on the air 9 years. I was saying it before. I said they've been laundering through whatever Defense Department, military budgets has been a big part of this, USAID, CIA budgets, everything else coming on. Now, and now they used to call them nonprofits, now they're calling them non-government organizations, NGOs. They have been taking money from us, and this is what's been funding this stuff. I was surprised yesterday, Jim McDonald, the police chief of LA, said, we know who these guys are. They're the same agitators that show up all the time. So he kind of let the cat out of the bag on the other side. But this stuff has been going on, this Churla thing, this breaking out tens of millions of dollars in just one nonprofit that seems to be with this deal that kind of started this with HERDA and the SCIU, and the government employees have all been involved in this stuff, teachers, I'm going to say cops and firefighters and the whole deal have been contributing to these organizations and stuff to make it. Sometimes we've been fueling our own demise. Your column this week, I think, is more like an investigative piece than an opinion piece, but you're digging into it along with some others. But your column finds someone who loves you as much as Karen Bass loves illegal immigration, Susan Shelley.
Yes. Well, she loves illegal immigration. She wants to tell Donald Trump to stop the riots and that we're a city of immigrants, once again completely obliterating the distinction between people who did this lawfully and came in through the lawful immigration process and people who just crossed the border and maybe had ill intentions when they got here. She makes no distinction. Everybody's entitled to be protected from the enforcement of the law. And it's really, it's very disturbing. Now, what is funding all of this? As you mentioned, there's the Coalition for Humane Immigrants' Rights, and that is well funded. Many of these are funded by government grants, and a lot of this was in the Biden administration to look out for all the migrants who were pouring over the border, 1 million at a time. So there was a lot of government money that was routed from Homeland Security and FEMA and everywhere else to support these different non-governmental organizations that were providing hotel rooms and food and walking around money and everything that everybody needed once they got here illegally. So that was coming from our tax dollars. But what I found is that Karen Bass has another avenue of funding these organizations. It's called behested payments. And we've talked about this before. This is when a politician asks somebody to make a donation to another party, it can be either charitable or it can be governmental or it can be civic, it can be any number of things. The money doesn't go directly to the politician, but when a politician with a lot of power over your business calls you up and says, I'd like you to donate $500,000 to this particular community foundation, the right answer is never no if you have business before the mayor. No is not a good answer that's going to give you what you want. So they say yes, and they write the check. It's a complete shakedown. It's extortion in 49 other states. But in California, it's a behested payment. And what she has been doing is behesting payments that go into these community foundations that fund these immigrants' rights community groups that she's now coordinating with to oppose all of the federal actions and make sure that everybody's out there to throw rocks at the ICE agents as soon as they show up. This is really disturbing. And one more thing that's disturbing is that there's something called a donor-advised fund that conceals the identity of the donor. Now, the reason the law requires these behested payments to be disclosed is because these people are potentially buying influence with these unlimited contributions at the request of Gavin Newsom or Karen Bass or any public official in California. They can all do this. Because you're supposed to know who's giving this money, there's a disclosure requirement. They have to do a report. But the report can say that the money came from a donor-advised fund in a foundation, and then it's completely secret. So in 2021, the FPPC issued a new regulation saying the politicians have to disclose who the true donor is in this donor-advised fund, if they can find out who it is. Well, that's a big if, isn't it? So Karen Bass has not disclosed who these are. There's a foundation, a donor-advised fund called the Pledgeling Foundation, and there's almost $800,000 in donations that she asked them to make, these individuals who donated through this secretive foundation, almost $800,000 just in January. And where did it go? Something called California Community Foundation. And what do they do with the money? Well, they kicked it to something called Community Partners. And what does Community Partners do? It funds these protest groups. It even has pictures on its website of people holding protest signs that say, and I quote, immigration is an LGBTQ issue. Is it? And why is that on the website? And why are these tax-deductible contributions funding these protests? So that's what's happening. Karen Bass is throwing her weight around to shake down people for contributions to support these immigrant community organizations, which are now trying to halt federal law enforcement.
It's stunning. This reminds me of the same thing of Jenny Poo, wifey of Gavin. These behested payments. It's probably maybe hundreds of millions that they've dumped into her little filmmaking enterprise over there that she can afford the $500 skincare products or whatever she was buying yesterday. But this stuff it should be 100% illegal. If there was any sort of honest system at all, or just say, hey, if you want to give these guys $1 million, just let us know, and let's cut the facade. This facade has been going on for decades. Like you see, every time they come up with a rule, they come up with a way around it. I mean, I would be better if they said, if you're handing them $10 million or whatever, we're paying the agitators to go do this stuff. Just say it. At least we'd have a better chance of knowing what's going on in this cat and mouse game we've been playing.
Well, you know, it is so corrupt. It is so corrupt. When Gavin Newsom was nearly recalled in 2021, he had the power to raise unlimited funds into his anti-recall committee, because by law, the target of a recall is not a candidate, but is a ballot measure. And there's no cap on how much can be donated to a ballot measure. So he had emergency powers, which he had given himself during COVID and wouldn't give up again. And then he starts working the phones and calling people to donate to his anti-recall campaign. Well, he had much more money than he needed, so what did he do with it? He spilled it over into a federal PAC, which is called the Campaign for Democracy. And now he's raising money into the federal PAC. And he uses this money to raise his profile with billboards and TV commercials in other states. Now, he says he's not a candidate for president, but if he was a candidate for president, that's all illegal unless you do the reporting and the limits and the disclosures and the rest of it required by federal law. So this is a giant slush fund. He's doing all of these things right now to raise money into his campaign for democracy. He's making these thunderous statements against President Trump, which really has nothing to do with his job as governor in California and what he should be doing in Los Angeles to protect people and property. Instead of doing that, he's raising money for his federal PAC, which he can use to raise his profile for a presidential race. This is so cynical. People are getting hurt, and this is so cynical.
1,000%. What is teachers through their union? Didn't they put like $20 or $30 million just into just that one? Just teachers through their union put that much money in that recall campaign on recall for Gavin Newsom. I know it was a staggering amount of money that he hijacked from them on that deal.
Yes, and there was also the Coalition for Humane Immigrant Rights Association, or whatever the full title is, CHRLA. They also donated to this committee that I believe was originally set up by the teachers union called the Million Voters campaign, something like that. And that was, I think, set up initially to fight Prop 13 and to try and pass the split roll a few years back. So that now it was like a shell committee that could be used to hide the donations coming in and going out and get around the fact that things have to be disclosed in different committees. It's just a big game. We have this really complicated campaign finance law in California called the Political Reform Act. It's worse than useless, because it makes everybody run in circles, and then it's only enforced against conservatives.
It's absolutely shameful what goes on. How we got to this, hopefully we will mark this date and time of 2025 as when we finally turning this stuff around. Got about a minute left. Tell them why they should join HJTA Go. It's
a very exciting time to be a member of the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association, because we're about to do an initiative campaign to close the loophole that the courts opened up in Prop 13, which making it easier to raise your taxes. And there's no limit on the types of taxes it can make it easier to raise. So we're going to close this loophole. We don't like it at all. We're going to get 1 million signatures. We're going to get this on the ballot in 2026. And to be a part of this campaign, go to hjta.org. Sign up for the free email alerts. Click that button that says Save Prop 13 and learn all about the initiative, and join the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association. Strengthen your voice in California. hjta.org.
Thanks for being on, Susan. We'll do it again next week.
Thank you, Roy.
You got it. Susan Chile, Vice President of Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association and columnist extraordinaire. Let's see if I can get this. There I am. Of the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association, or columnist of Southern California News Group, I should say. Columnist, I think she writes the column, I think she does write, well, John Coppell, the president, writes his commentary, but I think she does a column too on the HJTA site. Go join, crack open that $15. It will pay off by the gazillions. Oh my. That's not an exaggeration either. Get on to the local genre of that. Eddie George on his Hemet Action Eye News site posted this: wrongful force of resignation of Hemet fire prevention officer and fire arson investigator for the city of Hemet. So hopefully we'll be able to follow up with Eddie on that. I'm going to try to get him on Friday. He's kind of need to get him back on there. Do you agree with deporting most immigrants from the LA ICE raids? I don't know how many times I could press the button yes. And I think that the overwhelming majority of Americans feel that way too. Kids can sharpen their art skills at the Riverside Art Museum this summer, so there's something to do if you're bored during your summer break on that. Excuse me. Hemet cops ask Eddie George on Hemet Eye News, Action Eye News, to post this: quit putting out the disinformation. Mainly, unless you see proof of that there are ICE agents or something there, don't be posting this crap on the internet. It's making everybody's lives miserable, especially the cops. Suspects in a Fontana murder arrested in Arizona. Good job there. Lake Elsinore Sheriff Station got a new mascot over there. Absolutely lovely pup who loves chasing tennis balls. The San Gorgonio CHP were bowling for gold. They won 10 gold medals in a tournament of the United States Police and Fire Championships. So good job there. And the second one coming up, if we can do that, the Silver Sluggers in San Diego, a ball team made up of Hemet, Temecula, I believe Paris, yes, here we go. Hemet, Harupa Valley, Beaumont Police Department, California Corrections, Riverside County Sheriff Corrections, and the coroner's office. Their ball team got second in the Silver Sluggers deal in that same tournament down in San Diego County. So good job there on the ball team getting the silver medal. You didn't have to work though. 10 medals for the bowling team of the CHP Pass guys is pretty hard to beat. You guys are going to have to up your game. 4 men charged on suspicion of having destructive devices assaulting our officers during anti-ICE raids. Go cops. Witness the fitness every other Thursday in Paris. You can get on, work off a few of those pounds if you got them on there, or just get into regular good shape. In the police department, trainees working out at Diamond Valley Lake. So hopefully we won't have as much crime. Harris's, if you're old, down in the Riverside Plaza, there's all the chicks in the hosiery sale. And man, you didn't want to get in their way back then when that was going on. Sure, I'll take a few brick bets over that one. Paris Sheriff Station. Summer is loading. Thank you. They got a new patio and deal chairs from Home Depot. So good job from Home Depot. Father's Day car show in Murrieta is coming up. So be prepared for that. Of course, sad news is the inspiration of the Beach Boys, Brian Wilson, passed away today at 82. Sad news, pedestrian fatality struck by a Riverside County deputies' patrol car in Harupa Valley. Tragedy down there. Redlands School Board takes up racism resolutions. We'll get a report on that hopefully tomorrow. Nasty crash there in San Bernardino after a police pursuit. Upside down motorcyclist and a car upside down. 3 people. It was a triple fatal yesterday. Man found dead in a San Bernardino County home. Investigation underway. City of Chino got 2 residential burglaries along with the Victorville man who was arrested in Rancho Cucamonga on the same thing, a retail theft, and another one in Rancho Cesar. They were very busy. The Cheetos factory where the Flaming Cheetos were built, made, designed in Rancho Cucamonga is leaving us, closing. California, get your act together. Wellness clinic in Harupa Valley for your pets. Parasita Speedway Night of Destruction coming up Saturday. Youth from Hemet Cops, press release from Colton. Homicide press release, and we're almost out of time. Hello for today. We usually say at this time, mandatory you're back here 23 hours wide to hear the best darn show in the whole wide world. Until then, see ya.
All right, I will talk to you tomorrow.
You got it.